Hello, I'm Aaron Pringle, and welcome to my channel, where pop culture and cocktails collide. Today we'll be looking at why sad people drink vodka cranberries, and how sexy Ryan Gosling was miscast in 2011's Crazy Stupid Love, here on today's Crazy Stupid edition of...
It's Cinemixology! Ooh!
Crazy Stupid Love's mission is to charm your pants off, featuring a peak Steve Carell, the always amazing Julianne Moore, and the first-time pairing of cinematic power couple Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. It also manages this neat little trick of lulling you into believing you're watching a fairly light-hearted ensemble comedy, when in actuality, it's a pitch-black look at the lives of some fairly awful people. To be clear, this movie is never pure sap. It begins with the end of a marriage, and explores the devastation of the fallout of said divorce.
I want a divorce.
However, the audience is led to believe that true happiness is just a few makeover montages and some lessons in self-confidence away. These montages all come courtesy of ridiculously handsome and charming Ryan Gosling, who teaches Steve Carell that confidence, and by extension happiness, comes from a tailored wardrobe, finely tuned pickup techniques, meaningless sex with women, and most importantly, at least for a series about cinematic drinking, the right cocktail. After his wife Emily, played by Julianne Moore, clues him in to the fact that their marriage had slowly wilted and died without him even noticing.
We haven't been us, not for a long time. And I don't know when you and I stopped being us. Do you?
Maybe it's when you screwed David Lindhagen.
Steve Carell's Cal finds himself living in a shitty apartment and getting wasted on vodka cranberries at the local bar. His favorite topic of slurred, one-sided conversation is the man who's made him a cuckold, Emily's co-worker, David Lindhagen.
David Lindhagen cuckolded me.
This brings us to our first cocktail, the vodka cranberry. A vodka cranberry is, in general, a terrible thing to drink. It is often a young person's first cocktail of choice, given that the juice covers the taste of the booze, and the only purpose is to get you shit-faced. It's a bad idea for several reasons. A, the cranberry juice in bars is 99% of the time cranberry juice cocktail. This means they maybe took some cranberry juice, added artificial colors, more high fructose corn syrup than should be physically possible, and quite possibly a witch's curse. B, vodka dehydrates you, and cranberry juice is a diuretic, which means you'll literally be pissing the night away and horribly dehydrated. And C, large quantities of sugar and dehydration equals a super nasty hangover from hell. And trust me, I would know. Given these reasons, it's appropriate the film uses the vodka cranberry as a metaphor for unhappiness. You see, we also meet Hannah, played by Emma Stone, in the same bar sipping on the telltale red drink of despair. She seems objectively happy on paper, you see, for she's only one bar exam away from a successful lawyer career. She has a steady, successful boyfriend, played by Josh Groban, and hangs out with a sassy best friend, played by the always funny Liza Lapiro, unfortunately relegated to the role of mostly ignored sidekick. However, we know she's unhappy because no self-respecting person drinks vodka cranberries. As her plot progresses, we realize she doesn't seem super satisfied with her career, and since she's not one of America's many moms, she has no interest in dating Josh Groban. Just kidding, Josh Groban fans. But his character is written as a boring douche who mostly ignores Hannah and only cares about how she fits into his carefully plotted life plan.
I would like to formally ask you, in front of all our friends, colleagues, if you would like to become a permanent lawyer.
So we have two people at opposite ends of their life journey, drinking the same cocktail of sorrow in the same bar. Luckily, patron saint of bar sex, Ryan Gosling haunts the same bar. Can he manage to save both these sad souls with nothing but charisma and beauty? Yes. Yes, he can. He uses different methods to save each one, to be sure. But he'll save both of these sad, beautiful movie stars with nothing more than sexy sexiness, and he'll do it all with a sexy cocktail, the Old Fashioned, in his hand.
Hey, Fancy Face, you wanna go?
The Old Fashioned is a marvelously simple yet delicious cocktail. It also signifies an air of old school suaveness thanks to a certain Donald Francis Draper.
But they wouldn't let me use the toilet, so when nature called, I'd open up a trunk and relieve myself.
A certain section of Mad Men's audience failed to recognize that characters like Don Draper are not meant to be heroes. These mistaken audience members then see a mostly alright depiction of how manly men should display their testosteronative powers. Drinking an Old Fashioned, a potent mix of sugar, bitter, and whiskey, became the hallmark of men aiming to look cool and sophisticated in a bar.
That is a match made in the boardroom.
Basically, Mad Men defined a gendered cocktail for men the way Sex and the City did for women and the Cosmopolitan.
This is delicious.
Why did we ever stop drinking this?
Because everyone else started.
For the first half of the movie, Gosling is holding an Old Fashioned approximately 90% of the time. It never leaves his hand, although, miraculously, he never appears to be intoxicated. Assumably, his chiseled body immediately converts the alcohol into pheromones. Gosling always looks like a photographer for GQ is just out of frame. I mean, just look at how he eats a giant greasy slice of food court pizza. Gosling. Have I said his character's name? Do I know his character's name? Anyway, Gosling takes pity on Cal and decides to impart some of his secrets of not being a big old sad sack. After the obligatory and annoyingly charming makeover montage, Gosling proceeds to mentor the newly expensive wardrobe-clad Carell in his ways of seduction. These involve buying a woman a drink,
Buy her a drink even if she doesn't want one, you insist.
deflecting any questions she asks back at her so that she has to talk about herself,
She has to be the interesting one. Impress me with how interesting you are.
while the guy remains mysterious, and then taking her home for a bonin.
No, you tell them to come home with you. They have no choice in the matter.
These methods work, of course, and Carell ends up having his confidence and masculinity banged back into him by Marissa Tomei's magical vagina. We know he's doing better when he's traded his vodka cranberry of misery for what looks like a gimlet, which is a far more respectable cocktail made of gin and sweetened lime juice. So in the film, now everything is great and we have a classic sexist romantic comedy plot. All we need to wrap up this feel-good movie is for Carell to show how cool and confident he is to his almost ex-wife, win her back, and for Emma Stone to come back into the movie as she has largely disappeared while Carell goes around banging women, so Gosling can break down her walls and they can fall in love and make sexy, sexy children. But the movie slightly eschews this for a less straightforward route. See, we know most of the characters are miserable and unhappy, but Gosling is just such a rock of confidence. He seems to float above their misery. Then, the long-awaited seduction between Stone and Gosling happens, and his true character is revealed. So one night, after Josh Groban reveals just how completely oblivious he is about Emma Stone's emotional needs and wants,
I did. Wow. You know what? Thank you, Richard. Honestly, thank you very much for your job offer. I will consider it.
she flees to the bar to have sexy sex with Gosling. The thing is, she's in control of the situation. She doesn't allow Gosling to seduce her. She demands to be banged because her current needs involve doing something impulsive, selfish, and more than likely, since it involves Ryan Gosling, very physically fulfilling. Gosling doesn't really know what to do in such a situation, as his many, many bar hookups have been about his wants and needs. Faced with this unprecedented situation, he sticks to his playbook, which Emma Stone ruins by analyzing everything he does.
You know, you put on the perfect song, you make them a drink. I am here to bang that hot guy that hit on me at the bar.
The seduction scene is fairly amazing, pretty cute, and at the end, I dare you not to fall in love with both of them. And even though it's clear that they're both into it, the scene doesn't end in sexy sex. Instead, it ends in a long, honest conversation. Two characters, for the first time in the film, develop a real rapport and respect. They both talk and listen to each other. And it's during this conversation that Gosling quietly reflects his secret. He's deeply unhappy. He buys things and seduces women in a futile attempt to fill the void within. His entire persona is a facade masking a depressing, shallow existence. But for now, let's back up to the beginning of that scene and look at the Old Fashioned. The seduction begins with Gosling carefully crafting a pair of Old Fashions. He makes it exactly how ancient cocktail recipe books demand. Because Gosling is concerned with the correct way to be cool. What did the style guide say? How does Mad Men dictate the correct way to be a man? After Gosling's revelation that he's unhappy, we realize what that beautiful Old Fashioned actually represents. A toxic blend of old school misogyny and appearance over substance. I cannot emphasize enough how much the Old Fashioned was associated with Don Draper, Mad Men, and masculinity in 2011. I really cannot. Look it up. So he clutches this cocktail as a kind of security blanket, assuring himself that he's outwardly the best and has domain over all womankind. And apparently Ryan Gosling, when doing research for the film, learned which cocktail would be appropriately manly from this guy. So, at the beginning of the seduction, he presents this boozy totem of his manly strength to Emma Stone, and her response is, "This is not my drink." She knocks it back, however, because she wants to lose control and be dominated. However, after her and Gosling start making a connection, it's his hands that are empty, while she is the one casually sipping an Old Fashioned in bed. He's lying on his back, vulnerable and exposed, while she leans over him with his signature dynamic cocktail in her hands. The dynamic has completely flipped for now, but it's implied that they're on their way to a balanced, nuanced relationship full of mutual respect. And after this scene, Ryan Gosling is never shown drinking an Old Fashioned, the totem of his woman-conquering ways, again. When we next see him, we know he's matured because he's picking out a dusty old bottle of wine. Now let's take a break and make an Old Fashioned. Then we'll bring this video essay home. The Old Fashioned is a simple, classic cocktail that is easy to make at home, boozy, and delicious. And that way it really is a good cocktail to use should you be trying to woo someone. The old school way of making them involved muddling a sugar cube and trying to dissolve it in room temperature booze. As far as adding a little flair and drama to making the cocktail, I like it, but I'd much rather just use some simple syrup in the actual cocktail itself, since the sugar is already dissolved, and then you won't get grains of sugar in your mouth. Plus, who has sugar cubes anymore? Unless you're someone who takes a bartending guide from 100 years ago far too seriously. But I do like flair, and flair is fun for seduction. So, in order to bring some of that flair back in, what I do, first, make the cocktail as normal. I'm gonna use some bourbon, some simple syrup, a couple dashes of bitters, orange zest on top. Okay, so this is more or less your standard Old Fashioned. But then to add some drama to it, you can keep a tray of cherry and bitters infused ice roses in your freezer. Yeah. Slide that into your cocktail. Give it a little stir, and then ooh. You've got your Old Fashioned with some flair still inside. It's flashy, but still practical. And if you're anything like me, you'll also keep holding your bar spoon and using it like a magic wand throughout the night. Dating profile link down below. So now that I have my cocktail, it's time to tell you why I think Ryan Gosling was miscast. Please don't at me. I swear it's not mean. As much as the film and script are able to do with the fact that it knew its trope-filled first half had Gosling as a sexist and sad person, he's still way too charming and appealing to play a sleazy pickup artist. Too many people watch this film and still think Gosling is the epitome of suave masculinity. He gives a speech about a straw that is something.
Cal, would you take that straw out of your mouth? Please, just for this conversation. You know what that looks like? It looks like you're sucking on a tiny schwanz. Is that what you want? What? Is that the message you want to send to everybody?
No one's thinking that.
When this movie first came out, I can't tell you how many men I heard say irony-free to their friends that if they were drinking out of a straw, people thought that they had a tiny penis in their mouth.
No one's thinking that.
10 years later, many major cities have straw bans. Coincidence? I think not. They told you it was the turtles, but as always, it's the fragile heterosexual men.
Oh boy.
Gay.
Gosling just sells his toxic character traits too well, and his supposed growth into a better human comes off more like he was just waiting for his charisma match in Emma Stone before giving up his man-whore ways. Really, everyone is kind of miscast in this film. The charm offensive of the actors hides how dark and depressing the script really is. Without the buckets of charisma brought by the actors, the main characters, with few exceptions, would all be deeply unlikable. The selfish characters leave a wake of destruction behind them that they never really have to fully atone for. And then the film really stumbles in its ending. The film decides in the home stretch that it hasn't been about people learning to communicate and not torture each other out of pure selfishness. No, it decides it's really been about capital L love and how crazy and stupid it is. And I get that that's the title of the film, but didn't have to be, you know? Besides, it decides to broadcast this message in the worst subplot of the film. The subplot featuring Steve Carell's 13-year-old son. Believe me when I say that this has nothing to do with the child actor. It's the role as written, but the kid is a total creep.
I think about you while I do it. Robbie, I have this picture of you and I look at it the whole time.
Stop it.
I love you.
I am actually begging you to stop it.
And I know you're 17. I know I just turned 13, which is the same age as your little brother. Pretty sure you're my soulmate.
Okay,
And scary in his relentless pursuit of his 17-year-old babysitter.
Behavior. Dimsdale's A is inflicted upon himself in the form of
Jessica Riley, you are my soulmate. The love of my life. I have... She's my soulmate. I have marked myself with a scarlet J. For you, Jessica. Learn to love me, I promise.
No, I won't.
I love you, Jessica.
I am actually begging you to stop it. This has got to stop, Robbie.
Still not ashamed of it.
Okay. It's gross. She begs him multiple times to leave her alone, and once he finally gets the fucking hint to just drop it already, he pouts about losing his faith in love.
I was in love, and I used to think there was one true love for everyone, and if you fought hard enough for that person, one true love would always work out. There is no such thing as one true love.
Like, honestly, that's a good lesson. You should not be going all in on some perceived soulmate. The lesson of the film to this point seems to have been that you need to communicate and form an honest bond in order for love to work. And if you don't, that love can die and people can learn to love again with someone else. Instead, the script demands that everyone rally to him to just believe in love.
I met my soulmate when I was 15 years old, and I have loved her every minute of every day, because when you find the one, you never give up.
So it goes back to harassing the poor babysitter.
I still love you, Jessica.
And that whole unfortunate business ends with, I kid you not, that 17-year-old girl giving the 13-year-old boy naked pictures of herself.
Just a little graduation gift to get you through high school. Thanks.
That is a child! To be fair, they're both children, but there's still a noticeable age difference, and it's still very gross. This is not a happy ending. This is a bunch of toxic people passing their awful ways onto a child, and starting the cycle all over again. Instead of being about learning to value a romantic partner, it becomes more about just relentless pursuit.
I'm still not ashamed of it.
Okay, we're good.
If the director had had the actors play into the sleaziness, the tone of the film would more accurately reflect how depressing this script really is. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I just think the movie could have worked better had it been slightly more self-aware. The script is still very funny, and most of the cast could easily pitch their performances slightly different and been perfect for the darker tone that the script demanded. Not Gosling though. He's just too damn charming and...
Oh, I'm sorry, is this bothering you?
Seriously? It's like you're photoshopped.
to ever come off as a sleazy pickup artist. That's gonna do it for this episode of Cinemixology. If you have suggestions for other films or TV shows you want to see the Cinemixology treatment for, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Please be sure to help support this channel by hitting that like button and subscribing. And if you really want, become a Patreon or leave me a Venmo tip. Okay, bye now.